loving, warm, kind, generous, compassionate. There are so many words I can use to describe Anne, but this evening is also about Irwin. There are many people in this room who have known Irwin and Anne for many more years than I. Their children, friends, rabbinic colleagues, and members of our community could tell you about what wonderful people they are, with years of stories to share. But as Irwin's associate rabbi, I guess I'm the only one whose job depends on the introduction I give tonight, so I can see how I was the safest choice. Before applying for the job at the community synagogue, I did not know Irwin or Anne. And knowing how vitally important a senior rabbi is for setting the tone of a community, I did the responsible and diligent thing, phoning anyone and everyone who might be able to shed some light on who the Zeplowitzes were. Now, for the non-rabbis out there, it might surprise you to hear that rabbis can at times be less than complimentary about each other. Shocking, I know. But in the case of Irwin and Anne, not only did not one person have a bad word to say about them, everyone shared so many wonderful stories about them that it was hard to believe it could all be true. And it wasn't just the words which people used to describe them, kind, caring, generous, compassionate. It was also the tone which accompanied these words. You could hear the smiles down the phone. And for those people with whom I was able to have in-person conversations, you could literally see their eyes light up at the very mention of the name Zeplowitz. People raved about how lucky I would be to work with Irwin, a sentiment that could not have been more true. And literally everyone, every single person used the word mensch to describe him. Even my wife, Nicole, describes him as the menschiest mensch she's ever met. Better than a double chai, Irwin gets a double mensch. And while in Judaism, we consider this to be one of the highest compliments that a person can receive, amongst rabbis, there is also the idea of the rabbi's rabbi. And this is how so many colleagues describe Irwin. He's not just the person congregants go to for support, guidance, and embrace. He's the person that rabbis go to as well. And it is not just Irwin who has lived up to all of these wonderful epithets. Together with Anne, Abby, Dina, and Nate, the Zeplowitzes are really a family of mensches. For all of Irwin's and Anne's achievements out there in the wider world, the family they have created and the children they have raised should undoubtedly be the one of which they are most proud. Within the first month of moving to Port Washington, typically, when you are just beginning to get to know your colleagues, and particularly your boss, that process was accelerated just a tad by Hurricane Irene, explained to us then as a total fluke, a crazy and rare phenomenon, which I've now come to realize is actually just an annual New York hurricane. We were eventually told to evacuate our home, but hours before that, Irwin and Anne were on the phone insisting that we come to stay with them for the first of what has since become our annual evacuation at the Zeplowitz household. That is certainly one way to get to know your boss. And I have to admit, I was a little nervous about staying with the boss and his family, but their kindness, warmth, and love, which characterizes them and the home they have built together, immediately put us at ease. We had such a good time, in fact, that we joined them again for Hurricane Sandy, following another insistent call from Irwin and Anne, when they opened their home not just to us, but to members of the congregation who had been forced out of their homes. We were kept abreast of the storm's progress, as Irwin's attention to and passion for the weather is perhaps only rivaled by his passion for Torah, and only just. And at the Zeplowitzes, when the power inevitably goes out, and the fridges, yes, plural, stop working, you get to experience what it would be like to raid the fridge of a 4-star restaurant. Nicole and I ate better in those few days by candlelight than we do the rest of the year. We quickly realized after that visit that we were blessed not only to be included as part of the community synagogue family, but as a part of the Zeplowitz family as well. What I have described to you are the Irwin and Ann of today. But I wanted to find out if they were always the wonderful couple that we have been privileged to get to know and love. So I went to the source and spoke to Rabbi Mark Shapiro, the senior rabbi at Irwin's very first pulpit almost 30 years ago. While it might be hard for us to believe today, Rabbi Shapiro shared that when Irwin first sat next to him on the bimah, the whisperers in the community began inquiring about the bar mitzvah boy sitting next to the rabbi. But while he may have been young of face back then, he was clearly already wise and compassionate beyond his years. Even then, Irwin was someone who truly cared about others, and his warmth and empathy towards everyone he encountered were two of the oft-repeated characteristics which were so fondly remembered. And of Anne, Rabbi Shapiro remembered how the ladies of sisterhood fell in love with her instantly, and how as a young mother, she served as the ultimate role model for those around her. Even back then, she was, in his words, the sweetest person and the perfect balance for Irwin. From the very beginning, it was clear that they were the perfect team, complementing each other with their personalities and temperament. It seems that it was back in Chicago that Anne developed the now oft-heard phrase, "Now Irwin," which is still used today when he needs to be kept in check. And just like everyone else, Rabbi Shapiro only had wonderful things to say about both Irwin and Anne. In a brief introduction, there is not sufficient time to talk about their work and their manifold achievements and accomplishments. But as someone who has grown up through the programs of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, and now as a member of its board, I am grateful to Irwin and Anne for their unwavering support of international Jewry. They have always understood the importance of the line, Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Bazeh. All Israel is responsible one for another. Whether it was visiting refuseniks in the Soviet Union, reaching out to support our communities in Central and Eastern Europe, or donating a Torah scroll to Beit Shmuel, our community in Israel, Irwin and Anne have been active supporters of Jews in all corners of the globe. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the extensive work Irwin has done for the Hebrew Union College to support the education of so many rabbis, cantors, educators, and professionals who today are serving not just the North American community, but in World Union congregations around the globe. While my years in the rabbinate have been few, and I stand here humbled by the amount of experience and wisdom by which I'm surrounded in this room, and particularly this esteemed group of honorees, I still feel I have learned quite a few lessons during my tenure as a rabbi. One of the most important lessons I have learned is that at this, the beginning of my rabbinic journey, more important than finding the perfect community, though I've certainly done quite well with that, and more important than finding the perfect preaching or teaching style, is finding that teacher, guide, and mentor to help show me what it truly means to merit the title of rabbi as my teacher. I could never have imagined that in only 3 years in the rabbinate, I would be lucky enough to find the ideal model of all these things: teacher, guide, and mentor, the perfect senior colleague with whom to work and from whom to learn and receive guidance. In the Mishnah we are told, "Aseh lecha rav ukaneh lecha chaver," make for yourself a rabbi and find for yourself a friend. And while the instruction suggests finding two individuals to fulfill these different roles, it is truly a rare gift to find someone who is both a rabbi and a friend, a person who brings together the rabbinic qualities of wisdom, spirituality, compassion, and empathy, while at the same time relating to people in such a way as to become a true and dear friend. And you could not wish to meet two more compassionate, loving, genuine, and kind people than Irwin and Anne. I cannot think of two people more deserving of this honor. It is a true privilege as a member of the WUPJ board and as a very lucky colleague and friend to be presenting Rabbi Irwin and Anne Zeplowitz with the World Union for Progressive Judaism International Humanitarian Award.
So the award is presented to Anne and Rabbi Irwin Zeplowitz. It is in recognition of your outstanding contributions to the progressive Jewish community. Mazel tov. And I've come back because I have one further thing to say, and that is I forgot to wish Rabbi Danny Berkman a happy birthday.
So I will tell you that because it's Danny's birthday and because his wife, Nicole, is about 10 days away from giving a birthday, I think he has lost control of himself in these nice things that he said. But I'm very grateful, and I'm truly blessed by Danny and Nicole, and both of us are very thankful for this. We have a lot to say, and so I'm going to take a page out of David Saperstein's book, who's here this evening. David Saperstein taught me many years ago that if you have a lot to say, just say it really quickly. So I'm going to, with all due respect, try to say it as quickly as I can. But I was coming here this evening, the two of us were coming here with our kids, and we were in a taxi, and it reminded us of a story told of a rabbi and aggressive cab driver who's entered heaven. The angel shows the cab driver his new house. It's a mansion, it's magnificent, it's got a beautiful wave pool, all the latest gizmos, and then the angel turns to the rabbi and says, "Rabbi, here's your home." And it's a beat-up little shack, hardly anything. Surely, the rabbi said, there must be some kind of mistake. Can you go check something out with your supervisor? So the angel says, don't worry, it'll just take me a few minutes. Comes back a little bit later and says, you know, it's right. The rabbi quizzically says, I don't understand. And the angel says, you know, look, when you were doing your speaking or whenever you were giving a sermon, everybody in the congregation would always be bored and they would fall asleep. But when that taxi driver was going through the city, well, let me tell you, now that's when people were really praying. I am certain this evening that these words will not get me any better view in heaven, but I do hope that these few minutes can give you a little bit of a reason for the support that Ann and I have for the World Union and offer sufficient thanks for the honor. When I first meet a bar or bat mitzvah family, I start with the parents, much to the surprise of the 12-year-olds who are sitting there, and I say to the parents, tell me, what is your religious journey? Why are you here? And the reason that I do that is because I want young people to know that they are part of an old story. And that in a world of so many choices, the decision to become part of a Reformed Jewish community should be done consciously and thoughtfully. As we join tonight in support of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, it's worth bearing in mind that in an age of limitless, truly limitless possibilities, Reform, liberal, progressive Judaism offers something valued, important, and needed in our world. So what do we offer? Let me offer quickly 5 things that the World Union offers us. First, our synagogues around the world are rooted in a heritage that sees God not as a demanding God who expects obedience from us, and is intolerant of opposition, but a God that yearns for human dignity and freedom, for our people as well as for those of every race and creed and nation. Second, the World Union communities affirm a tradition that embraces what does it mean to be Yisrael? What does it mean to be struggling with God and humanity? We are inherently, and I hope you don't mind if I borrow a phrase from my time outside the United States, we are as Jews inherently the world's loyal opposition. To those in lands of bounty, we say, you are obliged to share with those who are in need. And to those in nations of oppression, we must be the vigorous voice that cries out that justice means equity for all. Third, we join wherever we study in prayer as the heirs of an intellectual tradition that values the questions, the doubts, the yearnings of the mind. We see respectful discourse and debate not as something to fear and to stifle, but as a great good. And that civil discourse is the only hope for a deeply linked and divided humanity. And fourth, wherever we are in the globe, we are hopeful that the messianic time will come. In an age of cynicism and despair, we remain committed to the belief that the world can be and must be better. And finally, wherever we are, ours is a movement that honors every single person in a wide and loving embrace. We are open to the equality of men and women, the acceptance of those of every ability, the love of people for whatever sexual orientation. We honor young and old for what they contribute to building a Kehillah Kedoshah, a sacred community. In short, the World Union for Progressive Judaism represents a powerful global answer in affiliation with the Union for Reform Judaism here in North America. We represent together the most important answer to religious intolerance, fanaticism, and hate. We are proud to be part of such a movement. And that is why we are passionate for our support of the World Union. And we want our young people, okay, not just our young people, we want everyone to be proud, reform, liberal, progressive Jews by choice. In addition to the ideological support that we offer, we should also do so out of sense of gratitude. Because whatever blessings that we here enjoy, we know that it comes to us in no small measure simply because of chance. A great-grandparent of ours boarded a boat to Ellis Island or Halifax or Galveston, but his or her sister might just as likely have stayed behind or crossed to some other distant shore. Long before the internet, we Jews understood that we are globally connected and that it is simply circumstance that separates here from there. And we Jews have moved enough throughout our long history to know that never, ever do we know what tomorrow brings. And so a wide-ranging Jewish community is a greater insurance for a more vibrant Jewish tomorrow. And so whatever blessings we have shared with the Jewish communities throughout the world brings benefit not only to the wider Jewish community and to the world, but who knows, you might be helping your own grandchildren, your own great-grandchildren, who just as likely will be speaking Mandarin as English. Ann and I grew up in small Jewish communities, me in Niagara Falls, New York, served by student rabbis from the Humanitarian College Jewish Institute of Religion, Ann in Barbados in the West Indies. I've been blessed in my rabbinate with Ann's support to serve 3 vibrant Jewish communities, far larger than where we grew up. But we never forgot that far-flung Jewish communities in North America and around the globe represent a link for hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Jews.
With all this in mind, we are thrilled to share this moment with Shirley and Al Forsman, Joan and Peter Whitehorn, and humbled to be included among them as honorees. This tribute is not really ours, but belongs to the many rabbis, cantors, educators, and devoted lay people who serve the hundreds of World Union synagogues and communities across the globe. We are blessed to be with so many this evening. Some we know well, others by reputation of their service to the Jewish people and the ideals of Judaism.
We offer a particular mazel tov to our year in Israel colleague and longtime friend, Rabbi Rick Block, who just a few days ago was installed as president of the Central Conference of American Rabbis. We pay tribute to rabbinic colleagues and their spouses, many who are here, and hundreds, if not thousands of others, for the tireless work they do on behalf of Reform Judaism. We are thrilled that so many colleagues from Israel are with us. Among them, Rabbi Kineret Shiryon, from whom we've had a close relationship over the years, whose congregation Yozma in Modi'in just yesterday laid a cornerstone for its educational campus. So we pay tribute to all the rabbis, but particular today to Rabbi Shiryon. We are moved to be here with such a large contingent from Canada, a country whose Reformed Jewish community understands its ties to the North American continent, but somehow has always been different enough, though Americans on this side of the 49th parallel might not realize it, but who are different enough to understand the vision of reform that is greater than just this continent. Among those Canadians are the dear friends at our table who are with us this evening, but also David Baskin and Joan Garson, whose father, Rabbi Bernie Baskin, I served with as a rabbi for 14 years, who has served as a rabbi in Canada's oldest Reform congregation for 65 years. Just to give you an idea, the people he started working with who were first bar and bat mitzvah the first year he was a rabbi, are now almost 80. Almost 80. We cannot fully express our thanks for all of the tables of our friends who are joining us from the community synagogue, including one of our synagogue's founding members, Betty Gollum, and her family. And I am so grateful for the colleagues, Cantor Claire Franco, Rabbi Danny Berkman, Sherry Iserlis, Lindsay Gansey, and so many others who are here and those who've not.
People often say that you make your best friends when your children are young. They may be right, they may be wrong. Good friends can come at any stage of life when the heart is open, and we are grateful that we have been embraced by so many, including you who honor us with your presence this evening.
Finally, those of you who know us personally know that this past month has been a very difficult one for our family. We have faced many challenges. Only one of them has been the loss of Anne's wonderful mother just 2 weeks ago. But we have never, ever for a moment had to face them alone. And that's what we know and what we believe it means to be part of a sacred Jewish community.
We are blessed to count among the friends and loved ones, those from the communities where we have lived in Chicago, Hamilton, and Port Washington.
Equally loving and supportive have been the rabbis, the cantors, and the educators, the people that are often called Jewish professionals, but we know are really Klei Kodesh, holy vessels of the Jewish people and faith. Acharon, Acharon, Chaviv, last mentioned and most beloved, our children, Abigail, Dina, and Nathan. Their Jewish path is certainly not ours. Gewalt is it ever not. But they should hear tonight in front of a community that our path was not the path of our parents or our grandparents. But we see in them a profound maturity and a commitment to the ideals of a liberal, open, intellectually rigorous, and egalitarian Judaism that is at the very heart of the Reform, Progressive, and Liberal Judaism we celebrate tonight. Words are insufficient to express gratitude for who they are and the lives that they lead. And whatever comes, we know that our family will face it together with the help of God and friends. And for that, we offer our deepest thanks. And if all that leads to a modest place in heaven without a wave pool, we will be most satisfied. We thank you.